Welcome, foolish mortals, to Halloween Treats, presented by the Look Back Machine. For the entire month of October, we bring you 31 episodes on 31 flicks. So sit back and relax on your broomstick. We have blood-curdling boogeyman and sadistic serial killers. From castles to were-rabbits to spine-chilling spine-tinglers. Oh, but that's not all. It's only a bit. There's also Dahmer, Dracula, and Wallace and Gromit. So turn down the lights and turn up the sound. And ready your heart, for it's about to pound. Because there's Halloween film history abound. Happy Halloween from the Look Back Machine. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a classic Halloween transformation tale. But today we present another, from bodybuilder to actor. Arnold Schwarzenegger's acting has been parodied and aped since the beginning. So much so that his voice is no longer his own, but everyone's go-to impression for the last 40 years. However, in his first film, Hercules in New York, Arnold's voice was far from iconic. It was so maligned that producers dubbed him over for the original release of the film, only to bring back the original recording after he had gained stardom. But in all the time we've been parodying him, Arnold has grown into an actor, which was on full display in the zombie apocalypse drama Maggie in 2015. This is the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Jekyll and Hyde transformation. Director Arthur Allen Seidelman.
I heard about it because I had just directed a production of Awake and Sing by Clifford Odets off Broadway. And one of the producers of that production, which was very well received, one of the producers was a gentleman named Willard Goodman, who was by profession a film UPM. And he said he'd been offered a job on a film which was intended to be a spoof, a parody of the Steve Reeves Hercules movies, which was to be shot in New York, and would I be interested in directing it? He said they would offer me $1,000 a week for 9 weeks, and I of course said yes. That's how I heard of it, and that's how I got the job.
I am tired of the same old faces. The same old thing.
Arnold was soon in the picture because it turned out that the film was being financed by, what was the gentleman's name? The gentleman who was selling barbells. And he was sponsoring Arnold's move to the U.S. and wanted Hercules to be his first movie. He indeed was financing the movie to, I believe the budget was around $300,000. Arnold was at the time Mr. Universe, and that's how Arnold became part of the project. I had breakfast with him at a coffee shop in Manhattan at 72nd Street and Columbus Avenue, I believe, or 73rd and Columbus. He had just arrived in New York the day before, and that was our first meeting. He had 2 eggs, a steak, a baked potato, and I kiddingly have, in other times talking about it, I kiddingly have added 2 eggs, a steak, a baked potato, and 2 waitresses. He was charming, flirting with the waitresses, but a real charmer, having a very solid, huge breakfast.
Put that discus down. You have no business out here.
Those men do not throw it far enough.
You don't say.
I do say. I once showed them in the Olympics in Greece how to do it. They profited by my instruction.
He had never acted before. He had never done a film before. He was in very professional, very interested in doing the best possible job, very diligent, and I offered him constant guidance. I surrounded him with a group of very experienced actors who also were of assistance and supported him. And but he was earnest, I think, is a good way to describe it. Very committed to doing the best job he could, thoroughly professional. His English was rough, awkward, but he was working at it diligently. But it was not it wasn't comfortable for him. He wasn't at ease. I mean, we chatted at length before, during, and after shooting, but English was a concern for him, and being not only vocabulary but just being comfortable in English was a new endeavor for him, and just being relaxed enough to be simply honest. But I think language was a primary concern.
That is not Hercules. And who is that monster who looks as if he has come straight from the kingdom of the underworld?
Oh, no, this is a motion picture, a play. Really, you mustn't take yourself so seriously.
He doesn't even look like me. Look, does he?
Listen, I really wish you'd put your shirt back on. You see, he isn't supposed to look like anyone except the actor who plays the part.
What is the name of that imitator? Who gave him permission to pretend to be Hercules?
Oh, listen, stop joking. I mean, I think we ought to go.
Excellent.
That's not Hercules. And who is that monster who looks as if he has come straight from the kingdom of the underworld?
Oh, no, this is a motion picture, a play. Really, you mustn't take yourself so seriously.
It doesn't even look like me. Look, does it?
I really wish you'd put your shirt back on. You see, he isn't supposed to look like anyone except the actor who plays the part.
What is the name of that imitator? Who gave him permission to pretend to be Hercules?
Oh, listen, stop joking. I mean, I think we ought to go.
Insolence.
When the film opened, the then distributor, subsequent to the initial opening, decided that Arnold's voice, his accent, was a hindrance to the success of the film. So I was off the film by then. I had nothing to do with any of this. They took the film back into post. They dubbed Arnold's voice with an unaccented American actor. They changed his name in the billing to Arnold Strong and re-released the film with his dubbed voice. Subsequently, when Arnold became Arnold and became famous as Mr. Universe, they brought the film back in again and put Arnold's voice back and sent the film back out again as Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hercules in New York.
Fast forward 46 years from Hercules, and Arnold has become a global movie star and governor of California.
I mean, one thing was very clear about Arnold from the very beginning was that he was intent on being a success. I asked him at that first breakfast why he had decided to move to the U.S., and he said to make money. And he has accomplished that. But he just was a very impressive, intent, focused guy. But if you would have asked me if I would have anticipated him becoming a movie star, I would have said no. But if you would have asked me if I anticipated him becoming governor of California, I would have even given you a more resounding no. So all my predictions would have been well off base.
After his 8 years of governor, he returned to filmmaking, but could not return to his previous stardom. Arnold returned to his bread and butter and made a series of run-of-the-mill action movies, but it all came off as old hat. So finally, in 2015, Arnold challenged himself. He played Wade, an engaging father who is hesitant to kill his daughter, who has been infected by zombies. Director of Maggie, Henry Hobson.
So I was directing short films, and one short film I made kind of brought the attention of a few interested parties, and what that did is it cemented this kind of intriguing proposition that from the feature world people could start to see how that could translate the short film into the feature world. And so the script landed on my desk, and I had received literally dozens of zombie scripts. There was zombies underwater, there were zombies who couldn't live above the tree line, there were all kinds of different zombie projects, but this one was such a unique vision. It was the first script I'd read, whether or not it was zombie, that dealt with the idea of illness in a mature and intriguing way, and to frame into it the zombie proposition made it this really interesting world, because essentially it's not really about that. It's about the relationship between a father and a daughter, the family, the community, the wider world kind of is peripheral in this. And so it really blew me away. And from that moment, I met up with the writer and manager, and we built this bond, kind of discussing our favorite films and everything like that. And it created this really interesting collaboration. And that was maybe 2011, I want to say, 2012, maybe late 2011. The script was gaining a lot of attention. I mean, we kind of got some really interested parties on board, and we were kind of cooking along with a head of steam. And then the Walking Dead arrived and did a lot in a half-hour episode or an hour-long episode of some of the emotional storytelling that this genre had been longing for. And so it dipped the intrigue from the wider community into Maggie, but we still kept our momentum, we still kept our focus, we still kept that kind of desire to make it. And so slowly we pushed forward, and over the next couple of years, we kind of cemented the idea of making the film. And gradually, as we kind of met with different actors, met with different personalities, kind of started to create that nice balance. It was a meeting with Arnold, where we sat down with him, both the writer John Scott III and myself, and we sat down with him, and he was, just outstanding. I mean, he sat in the room and talked about how he'd approach it. He talked about his film. It was beautifully unexpected because of the way, a character like him is framed in the media. We see this Republican governor and this powerful action hero, but to have him talk about these kind of touching moments was something quite compelling. Initially, there was skepticism, for sure. I mean, anybody would be a skeptic on that. But then you've also got to look at Arnold is no longer, and in the back of my mind, I always have this, even in the back of my mind, I ask myself this: Arnold is almost more American than most Americans now. He is Mr. America, the American dream. He is somebody who's moved over here and lived the dream that we're all told about within America. And so it's also marrying a Kennedy. I mean, you can't get much more of a kind of American royalty. And I think what we did and what we talked about was, okay, the way he talks is, when you dissect it, is not your traditional Midwestern. But I think because he's so ingrained in American culture, there's not even a question. And in my eyes, once you kind of think about it a little, it becomes kind of crazy to even dismiss it. And so after that kind of initial kind of, wait, is this real? And when it became a real proposition, it was like, no, this is exciting. We're going to get to tell and show Arnold in a new light. All we were doing as we met with him was willing that kind of, say the right things, and he did. Each time we were kind of building with that, and I'm sure it was as much an interview, for me to kind of and John to kind of fall in love with him as it was for him to fall in love with us. I mean, obviously, if he was as he was on board, if he wasn't keen on us, it would be, the end for our adventure within the project. Or so I think, despite that fact, despite him, having all the cards, as it were, it was clear to see that he was the right person. He was detailed and focused on the parts he wanted to bring to the project. And so any skepticism that initially lingered, evaporated, and that skepticism was short-lived anyway, just because of the thought of the excitement of can we kind of bring this to life, turn this well-known action and comedy star into a drama performer, and then he can do it, or you suspect he can do it. So the idea that you're one of the people who'd be able to do that, I will be able to showcase that is incredibly exciting. So yes, it was pretty interesting. We discussed the idea of this Clint Eastwood-like transformation from action comedy to drama. This stoic personality who could draw out these amazing moments of character. And I think from that moment we met him to the final beat of the film, I think that comes across in every frame of the film with him in. His performance is fantastic, and I think it showcases him as someone with more than just the guns and ammo that you might have expected from him. So that was one of those beautiful moments where that came together, and obviously with Abigail as well and Jolie Richardson, we have this kind of terrific crew, terrific cast with depth. The idea of now, how do we kind of put this together? Now it kind of came together in a very rough and tumble way towards the end, financiers and various bits and pieces as we're trying to find those kind of last few dollars and dimes to make it work. It's surprising how difficult the film financing game is. We were looking for a European financial arrangement, so we had investment from Europe, which meant we had to have European qualifying bits and pieces of the puzzle. So it became very complex and mathematical. But once we got to the artistic side of stuff, and once we got to build it, working with a cinematographer like Lucas Etlin, I was able to we'd sit down and watch films together, along with Arnold. Occasionally, we'd kind of consider these various films, and we'd talk about what we could bring and what that film kind of meant, and how we could translate some of the emotion, the look, the feel, the scale and scope. And yes, so we started to kind of piece all those bits and pieces together, and so we had this kind of immensely small budget to really put the film together. And yes, it was kind of, how can we tell this in the most intimate, clever, smart way? Do we strip back lighting, cameras, lenses? What do we do? How can we build this and make it really really unique? And so we actually ended up shooting the whole film with just one lens, which started off as a choice and then became a necessity when we ran out of money to keep the lenses for the whole duration. And it was one of those moments where it actually became something quite beautiful. And we found that it created an intimacy and an unusual quality to it that kind of made it stand out. With so little money, it's very difficult to create something that doesn't feel cheap and cheerful. We wanted to kind of create a new look. Arnold is a character, is a person rather, not a character. I mean, sometimes we think of him as a character because he's so unique, but as a person, once he's invested, that's everything. He's all in. He wants to give absolutely everything to the project. And I think that gives a kind of totally brilliantly unique prospect from the film, because we're kind of getting an actor who's kind of he's not an actor who's done it all, seen it all, and kind of phoning things in anymore. He is an actor who gives every single kind of muscle and brain brain cell to kind of into a project that he's committed to, which is really lovely considering the long and illustrious career he's had. I mean, some of the ones I've already talked about in terms of the kind of having Arnold breaking down, you know, of having these kind of tearful moments with Arnold. I mean, that was one of the kind of most amazing moments. And obviously, it felt quite funny when you've got an actress like Abigail who's breaking down as well in a scene where they're both kind of, you know, emotionally bonding kind of on the floor of a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. It's hot, it's sweaty, and Arnold starts to cry. And the whole crew is transfixed because no one's seen that. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is where suddenly we're saying, and I think what's so strong about Arnold as a character is he's so ingrained with strength. I mean, his whole personality and characterism are about strength, whether it's bodybuilding, action films, whatever. It's about power and strength. So to see a vulnerable side to him implies the immense trauma that the family must be going through within the film. So it was our total desire to show this kind of shaky voice, man who's trying to stoically kind of consider every line that he says because he can't get it out. He doesn't want to break in front of his family. And then to see him cry, the crew just stopped. And it was this lovely moment because obviously Abigail is somebody who's so skilled, you know, who we've seen, you know, we know that those performances come to her and they come naturally. But it was this moment of like, I felt bad because we're all kind of in awe of this Arnold moment. And I felt bad, you know, we're not sharing this with Abigail in many ways because she's also giving it her all. But it was so unexpected from Arnold. And it wasn't something that he, you know, we weren't tear sticking or anything like that. It was instant, and it was, you know, in camera on the moment. And it was pretty compelling.
Snap out of it. Come on.
Daddy.
Daddy. That's my girl. That's my baby. Thanks for listening to Halloween Treats, presented by the Look Back Machine. Stay tuned for the entire month of October for an episode every single day till November.
Oh my God. It's when Arnold became when his name became more known. I thought the film went into a peaceful retirement for a couple of years. And then one day I remember vividly, I was paging through an issue of TV Guide, and I was actually on the phone with a friend in New York at the time, and there was a 2-page ad for Hercules in New York with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I remember my reaction over the phone to this friend of mine in New York was, "Oh shit, oh fuck, oh my God, it's back."